Welcome back, students. Welcome to the first lecture. The topic for today's lecture is why should we go with restructuring of power systems? So the title is Need for Power System Deregulation or Need for Power System Restructuring. In this video lecture, we will come across the evolution of restructuring of power systems, and we will also see why we should go with restructuring of power systems. And at the end, we will see what are the objectives and advantages of restructured power systems. So I hope that on the completion of this lecture, you will be able to understand the evolution of restructuring of power systems, and you will be able to explain the need why we should go with restructuring of power systems. At the same time, I do hope that you will be able to state the objectives and advantages of restructured power systems. Having said that, the contents in this video lecture are divided into, I will start with the basic term of restructuring. What do you mean by restructuring? And I will start with how this concept of restructuring, what made the engineers across the globe think about restructuring of power systems. So the reasons we will discuss, and we will next discuss why we should go with this restructuring, and next the objectives, and finally the advantages, and lastly we will close it with a proper conclusion. Moving ahead, coming to the word deregulation. Basically, deregulation itself, the word, the pronunciation of deregulation itself means that it is just like a misnomer. But deregulation refers to removal of regulations or restrictions, especially in a particular industry. So, the different regulations and restrictions which we feel that they are hindering the progress of a particular industry, those are to be removed. I am not saying that they must be completely removing the rules. Basically, I am not saying that we should completely remove the rules. The rules must exist, but new framework must be created. Why? Because this must aid the efficiency. Our ultimate goal is that we should improve the efficiency of any particular industry. So, deregulation or restructuring of any industry must happen all the time, and it includes changing the rules, removing the old rules and policies which hinder the growth of the industry. And in other words, it can be also called as a reforming, or I will be calling it as a restructuring. Or in northeastern countries, basically we do call it as liberalizing, easing the reforms. Now, what actually deregulation in the power system industry means to? So, as the name itself indicates, deregulation basically, the name itself indicates, we already had discussed, that it is nothing but changing the rules and regulations which control the electrical industry. Now, what we intend here is nothing but we want to decentralize the power. So, we want to separate, if you carefully see, the functions of power generation, transmission and distribution. We don't want a single electricity board to control all these aspects. We want separate entities where leadership can be completely different for each of these sectors, and decisions can be taken quickly and efficiently. And we also expect that this type of restructuring of power systems, it provides the customers the choice of electric supply. So far in our state, from the past, from the independence, from the era of independence in 1947, we have been receiving electric power only from one entity, and that is DISCOM, right? The state-run DISCOM. So, if we think of regulating or restructuring the power system, then we intend to create more options for the customers. So, deregulation, we are hoping that it provides customers multiple choices. And whenever we are providing multiple choices, which means that whenever we are encouraging new companies, it also encourages competition in all the areas. Wherever you entertain multiple players, it improves competition, and this further it will reduce the electricity prices. So this is what we are expecting. So the first thing is separation of entities. Next thing is providing multiple choices to the customers and encouraging competition among players, thereby reducing the prices. This is what we are hoping with restructuring of power systems. Now moving ahead, why this concept of restructuring of power systems came into existence? From the 1940s, most of the countries, they had one particular monopoly utility which used to control the generation, transmission and distribution. And moreover, all these entities, they were mostly run by central government or maybe state governments in some countries. So they used to be completely public utilities, which means they were under the control of governments. So as you all know, whenever everything is under the control of government, most of the times, I'm not saying completely, most of the times what happens is the decisions will be taken very slowly, and particularly they will be thinking about customer friendly, not customer friendly, particularly providing incentives to the customers basically. So they don't think about the generation companies, they don't think about so and so, what their mind will be in the government, that they should not levy any additional taxes or prices to the people. So all the public utilities which were under the control of government, they used to rely upon the government for decision making and also for decision making in the concept of increasing the power, making some profits, maintaining some standards regarding the environment. And one more thing was that the biggest problem with the public utility companies is that overstaffing. Even to this day, public utilities are known for their overstaffing. And even now also, there are very limited number of companies, public utilities, which are making profits. Most of the public utilities are making losses. And the customer experience, there are so many complaints against the public utilities that they are offering very poor customer experience. So, because of the loss making, overstaffing, loss making, and poor customer experience, because of all these things, there is a belief among the customers that any utility, if it is there under public enterprises, if it is run by the governments, then automatically it will provide very poor accountability. So this type of things are to be changed. And second thing is private utilities. There is a belief among the people that if the utilities are completely run by the private people will be completely focusing on profits, and they will be directly involving in levying the prices which they incur directly to the customers. So there is a belief among the people regarding private utilities also, that if everything goes into private, then the prices might go high. So people are not ready to believe completely public owned utilities and completely private owned utilities. So because of these mindsets among the people, and because of this things, because these things have been happening across the globe. So this was the first thought of developing this concept of restructuring of power systems. And later on, we had this changes, revolutionary changes happening in the power systems. You might have known that earlier we used to have hydel, and next we had thermal, and you might have come across different types of generations also. Geothermal generation was there, and next was ocean energy was there, and biomass was also there. Okay, even though these geothermal, ocean, they are of only minute quantity, these two are major providers of electricity, major areas of generation of electricity. But in the recent past, after the 1960s, the PV systems came into picture, photovoltaic systems. PV systems and wind systems came into picture on a large scale. And with the 1990s and 1980s, 1990s, and particularly when China started manufacturing the solar panels on a large scale, the cost of PV panels has reduced to a very great extent. And this particular has given rise to developing the PV energy on a large scale. And this thermal plants also, earlier they used to rely upon the coal and they had very poor efficiency. But later on, gas plants came into existence. Even in USA also, we see more number of gas plants, gas-driven plants. They have gas turbines where the fuel is gas instead of coal. So these gas plants, they challenge this the old-aged coal-based thermal plants. So with the help of these gas plants and modern-day technology, PV and wind, so we have been experiencing revolutionary changes. And particularly with the gas plants and PV plants, now private players are entering. It has become easy for the private players to enter into the markets. So they can, let us suppose if a person is having, let us suppose 100 crores or so now, he can install a 25 megawatt or 15 megawatt PV plant. So, and the biggest advantage of this gas plants and PV plants now have become very closely that they are now being located even at the load centers. Even if you carefully see large number of companies, IT companies in Hyderabad, they are having their own PV plants. And gas plants, small sized gas plants can be developed close to the load centers. So because of all these technologies, we need to allow private players to enter into the market. If still you are relying upon the government entities, government may not be able to provide funds and there won't be any innovations or technology changes. So unless you enter private utilities, they do have lots of money. Even in our country also there are big shots who do have lots of money. If you allow them to enter into this generation sector, then automatically then you can expect some changes. See, all these changes, they are coming into picture because you are allowing private players only. So we need more initiatives regarding this one. And one more thing is, has already been said, difficulty in segregating the costing. This was the biggest problem. Earlier we used to have vertically integrated utilities where everything was under single hand. Even in our state also, before the bifurcation, we had State Electricity Board, AP State Electricity Board. It was before bifurcation in 2002 or 2003, I think. The State Electricity Board, it used to control all the generation and transmission and distribution. Later, after Electricity Act 2003, it was trifurcated into Genco, Disco and Transco. But earlier, when it was on a single, when it was existing as a single entity, it was very difficult in segregating the total cost because it was making huge losses and it was very difficult to identify which area was actually making losses. So, to clearly identify which area is making losses, what we should do? We should divide it. We should divide and conquer it. Just the philosophy as it says, it is easy when we divide the things and conquer them. So here the conquering is nothing but identifying the losses and making it profitable. So first thing is we should divide it, and next we should identify the losses in a very confined area. Then we should try our steps in order to bring it back to profitability. So that is one thing. So since the difficulties which we had, that was one reason. And these losses were both financial and also technical also. So this was one of the reasons why we are going for restructuring. And finally, as you all know, the customer satisfaction. In the recent past, the customer is evolving very fastly. Even in the recent past, in 2010 onwards, if you carefully see, everybody holds a smartphone. By the year 2016, even school kids are holding a smartphone in their hands. And everybody now is used to using a laptop. Everything has become now smart, and even the people who are living at the village also, now they are enjoying the smart technologies. And the customers are evolving. This means that the customers are evolving and they demand a very better satisfaction. Do you still believe that, do you still feel that you want to go to age-old methodologies just like getting an electricity bill on paper and going to electricity office to pay the bill and standing there in line? We don't want such sort of things. We want everything to be digitalized, right? Now we should get the electricity bill to our mobile. We should see what the things are basically. What are the charges which we have been incurring, and we should see what is the usage of our electricity daily wise. So we want more from the company because we are paying for that. So the customers are demanding better satisfaction, and they need accountability, because even to this day, even if I don't, let us suppose if there is a power shortage, or let us suppose there is a power out now, I can't complain to anybody, right? Nobody responds to me. And even the company also doesn't put a message that from this time to this time you will be experiencing a power outage. So this type of problems which the customers are expecting, they want a change in this one. So the customers now, they want more accountability, which is not provided by the vertically integrated utilities. Earlier it doesn't. It was not providing any this type of experiences, this type of suggestions for us. This type of information was not shared. So to improve that, we should go with the restructuring of power systems. So having said these things, the final thing what we can say is that why we should go with restructuring. We have seen all the problems. The first and foremost thing is the central and state governments, there is a scarcity of financial resources. And there is an immediate requirement of improving the technical and commercial efficiency of the utilities. And for your information, see, this is the source. And for academic year 2018-19, we have nearly 55 distribution utilities in our country, spread over different states. And the total losses accounted to nearly 27,000 crores. Imagine, this is the public money. 27,000 crores losses. This much amount of losses have been incurred by this distribution utilities. And see the distribution losses. These are technical and commercial losses. It stands around 18.5%, which is very, very high. So these are to be changed. So how this can be changed? Only with introducing some new rules, removing the old-fashioned rules. We should go with modifying. We should go with some modification. We should improvise the things. And that is possible. And this process is completely called as restructuring or deregulation. Okay. So that's it for today. We will see in the next lecture. Thank you.